Hi everyone, welcome to or back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Shea and I currently live in Bologna, Italy, where I've been studying Italian for over a year now. And I make all sorts of videos on my life here in Italy, as well as language learning, how to learn a new language, and not just Italian. If you are learning a language, you probably have heard people who say, oh my gosh, I learned a whole new language just by watching TV shows. And trust me, when I heard that, I was super excited because I thought, okay, imagine how many languages I can learn just by watching TV. But as someone who has been studying Italian for a while now, I know that is definitely not the case. I think watching TV series can be a great supplement to the other resources and methods you're using to learn a new language. I think it really helps with conversation, pronunciation, and some other things I'll get into later within this video. But overall, I definitely think it's a myth that you can just learn a whole new language just by watching TV. So today I'm going to walk you through what I do and what I did in the past when I watched TV series or movies in Italian. Methods have definitely changed since being a beginner to now at a more advanced level. So I want to walk through some of the things I did then and then how I watch TV series now to learn new vocabulary, work on my pronunciation, and go over things like that. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First and most important step, choose a series that is at your level. If that is a children's show, that is totally fine. When I first started learning Italian, I was watching Barbie and Peppa Pig in Italian. It's very entertaining. It feels stupid, but you can't immediately jump into a series that's super complex and will have super crazy vocab that will be hard to understand. You learn a new language as a child, so why not watch children's series or series that are a bit less complicated? If you have to start there, don't be ashamed. Honestly, it's a great way to get started with watching TV series instead of jumping into something you won't understand. People always ask me where to find series. Of course, you can use Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Disney. All of the streaming services probably have either a program in another language or you have the option to listen to shows like dubbed. But something that I really enjoy using is actually called Lingopie because it's basically a streaming service made for language learners. So if you really want to try watching TV series specifically for learning a language, Lingopie is absolutely amazing. I've used them during my language learning experience. I've talked about them in a video before, and today I'm partnering with them again because I seriously think they're an amazing resource. They currently have a whole catalog of TV series and movies in languages like Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, Korean, Japanese, German, Russian. Each series or movie has the subtitles of obviously that language, but you can also simultaneously have the English translation as well. Or if you like, you can just click right on a word or phrase that you don't understand and it'll show you the translation immediately, which is really perfect because when I would watch streaming services that aren't catered for language learning, I would have to pause the show, go look up the word or phrase that I didn't understand. But with Lingopie, you can just click on it and immediately see what a word means. Plus it gets saved to a collection, so later on you can review these words. Obviously, because as I've talked about, actually going back and reviewing vocabulary is really important. So this is a great way to not only figure out the translation in the moment, but be able to review them later on. It's also really great because whether you're a beginner or advanced, you can use Lingopie. They have really great features such as being able to switch the speed. So if the show is going a little bit too quickly and it would be better if the dialogue was slowed down, you can control the speed as well. And they have all types of different genres. They have all sorts of shows that you can choose from, whether you're advanced or beginner. So really anyone can use it. And what's super exciting is they recently released a Chrome extension, so you can use Lingopie with Netflix now. So you can watch Netflix with your favorite shows and be able to access the subtitles that I talked about, where you can click on them and get the translation right away. When I heard this news, this is fantastic because one thing is that, yes, I love Netflix shows, but it would be really great if you were able to find out a translation right away, be able to review those vocab words later on. So if you want to try Lingopie, which you definitely should, I have a link in the description box below, which will get you 55% off of the annual subscription. And I definitely think it's worth it. So I would check it out. And if you have any more questions, let me know. The first big thing about watching TV series or movies in your target language is learning vocabulary. And the vocabulary of most languages follows the Pareto principle, which says that the most common 1,000 words of a language will help cover about 80% of speech. So this means that by knowing just 1,000 of the most common words, you're able to understand real life conversations that obviously aren't too complex. But when you think about it like this, it's very encouraging. And because TV shows will obviously include a lot of this real life conversation, you will be able to learn a lot of those 1,000 most common words very quickly because you'll see them pop up very frequently and understand how to use them in your own conversations. When I first started watching TV series, I would just have a notebook and I would be writing down words that I didn't understand. Not every single one, because obviously that takes a lot of time to pause and look up the translation. Take notes of words that you see frequently. So maybe have a goal for each 30-minute episode of a show, write down 10 vocabulary words that you think are the most important. Obviously, like I said, if you're using something like Lingopie, this is perfect because you don't have to worry about getting out a notebook and writing things down. You can just click on the subtitle for the translation. And then when you think, okay, what words should I actually write down? Make sure you focus on words that are relevant to you. For example, one time I watched a show in Italian that followed a court case, lawyers, trials, stuff like that. So obviously there were a lot of technical terms that were very difficult to understand, but also probably not very relevant to me and things that I would be talking about on a daily basis. So I didn't get super hung up on the little vocabulary words or details of things that I didn't quite understand, because if I want to study those later on, once I'm better with the language, that's fine. But for right now, I'm trying not to use up too much of my brain space at once, and so I only wanted to focus on phrases or words that I think I would be using within conversations with my friends. And of course, once you have this collection of words, whether that's through Lingopie or something else, maybe you want to make flashcards on Quizlet, make sure that you are reviewing the words that you're learning. Obviously, if you don't, they will just go out the window and you won't remember the words that you wrote down. So a thing that I like to do is watch an episode and then maybe the next day or whenever I go to watch another episode, before I start that one, I review the words that I learned last time. Another way to practice the vocabulary that you've learned is writing little summaries of episodes that you just watched, or you can verbally talk to a friend about it. So if you have a language partner, you can ask them to talk about the episode you watched. Maybe if you have a study buddy, you guys can both watch the episode and talk about it. Getting that speaking practice is also a huge bonus when it comes to language learning. Another great thing you can do with TV series and movies is practicing pronunciation by shadowing. Shadowing is when you choose a short scene and you play it back and try to mimic exactly what the actor said with the same intonation, the same speed, tone, stuff like that. Obviously, hearing the language really helps your brain absorb how it should sound, but at the same time, you have to actually practice it yourself. You can start off with just words or phrases because obviously you don't need to memorize a whole script of a scene. If there's a scene with a lot of dialogue that isn't too fast or difficult to mimic, you can try saying it along with the person so that way, again, you can mimic the speed and intonation of how they're talking. Something that you could also do once you really get it down is actually record yourself so you can hear yourself, because sometimes when we hear ourselves later, we realize, oh, I thought my accent was really good, but maybe not so much. And it's a good way to document your process as well because you will hear how your accent changes. And then just as far as some general tips of how I watch TV series and movies to learn Italian, I would split it up. Sometimes if I really feel like I'm in the study mode, I will use something like Lingopie or get out my notebook and really use the show to practice pronunciation, shadowing, stuff like that. Other times, if you really just want to relax and you feel like your language skills are getting a little bit better, you can watch the series and not have to look up so many words. You can just watch the series for fun. It doesn't always need to be an intense language learning session. Of course, people always ask me, do you use subtitles? If I use subtitles, am I cheating? No, not at all. When I very first started watching TV series, I used English subtitles, and I don't think that you can jump immediately into watching a series if you're a beginner using your target language subtitles. Because if you're a beginner, it's going to be way too difficult and you just won't understand anything and it'll probably just make you really frustrated. So it's not a bad thing to use your native language subtitles in the very beginning because you'll start hearing a language and you can start matching the words and what you're hearing to their translations. So it's not a bad thing to use the subtitles of English or your native language in the beginning. I will tell you now that even though I feel like my level is very good in Italian, I still use Italian subtitles. I've never gotten to a point yet where I can listen without subtitles. Sometimes people just speak too fast, or like I said, with certain accents. A lot of shows that I watch are set in Rome, so characters will have really intense Roman accents, or they'll use slang or words that I just don't understand, like we don't use here in Bologna. Don't be afraid of subtitles. No, they're not cheating. Use them for as long as you need. This is also why Lingopie is perfect, because you can have both translations, and that is just a fantastic way to learn, and not an option that you would have if you just use Netflix, Amazon, Disney, stuff like that. And also, if you want, you can rewatch shows multiple times. What you can do is watch the show first just to get a sense of what's happening, try to write down some of the vocabulary that you don't understand, and after you've studied the vocabulary and phrases, you can go back and rewatch it and see if you can pick up some more or if it seems a lot easier for you to understand. It's also interesting to see if you watch a whole series and then you go back and start it from the beginning after you've been studying for a while, to see the difference in just how much you actually can understand. It's a very exciting feeling seeing these little milestones like this, whether it's being able to understand more complex series or being able to go back and finally watch a show using those target language subtitles. Whatever it may be, watching TV series is a great way to be able to see the progress that you're making, and it's very, very exciting. One of the last things I want to say is you have to actually be actively watching the series. You can't just expect to turn on TV series and have them playing in the background and then one day be able to speak a new language. Of course, a lot of people make it sound like that, but you have to actively tune into what you're watching. Focus on the vocabulary that you don't know. Practice pronunciation. So remember that watching shows is definitely a fun way to study, but not the only way you should be studying. If you need other tips, I have tons of other videos about how to study and learn a new language, not just Italian. So whatever language you're learning, I hope that I can provide some help and guidance to you. If you have any questions on anything about learning Italian, life in Bologna, life in Italy in general, be sure to message me on Instagram. I'm always happy to help you guys out, and thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to check out Lingopie below, and I will see you all very soon. Bye!